When a toxic person decides to destroy you, they rarely do it alone. A true Machiavellian manipulator, a narcissist, or a workplace psychopath operates by building a fortress of allies. They surround themselves with flying monkeys, enablers, and a carefully constructed social network that echoes their lies and protects their ego. When you realize you are under attack, your natural human instinct is to fight the fortress. You want to stand outside the walls, scream the truth at the top of your lungs, and violently expose the predator to everyone in their circle. You try to convince their friends, their family, or your coworkers that the person they are protecting is a monster. And every single time you do this, you lose. You lose because you are attacking a fortified structure from the outside. The manipulator has already anticipated your anger. They have already poisoned the well, telling their circle that you are unstable, jealous, or crazy. By attacking them directly, you are just proving their point. The gates will close, the arrows will rain down on you, and you will be completely isolated and destroyed. Niccolo Machiavelli and history itself teaches us a very different lesson about impenetrable fortresses. Thousands of years ago, the Greeks spent 10 grueling years trying to breach the walls of Troy with brute force. They failed, bleeding their army dry, until they realized a fundamental law of dark psychology. If you cannot break the gates down, you must make the enemy open them for you. They built a wooden horse. They disguised their absolute destruction as a gesture of peace. And the Trojans, blinded by their own arrogance, pulled their enemies right into the heart of their city. If you want to defeat a heavily protected manipulator, you must stop being the battering ram. You must become the Trojan Horse. In the realm of dark psychology, the Trojan Horse defense strategy is the ultimate masterclass in covert warfare. It is the calculated decision to stop fighting the manipulator and instead to seamlessly infiltrate their inner circle by appearing completely harmless, supportive, and defeated. You drop the sword, you smile, and you allow their arrogance to pull you directly into the center of their network. Because the most terrifying place to put an enemy is right next to your own control panel. In this breakdown, we are going to dissect the anatomy of the ultimate social infiltration. We will teach you how to bypass a predator's paranoia, how to slowly and invisibly absorb their leverage, and how to dismantle their entire empire from the inside out without anyone ever seeing you hold a weapon. The time for fighting outside the walls is over. It is time to get inside. The hardest part of the Trojan Horse strategy was not building the wooden structure. The hardest part was convincing a paranoid, war-hardened city that the structure was a genuine gift of surrender. When you decide to infiltrate a manipulator's inner circle, you are facing a terrifying obstacle. Dark triad personalities live in a constant state of hypervigilance. A narcissist or a workplace psychopath expects betrayal because they constantly betray others. They expect retaliation because they know they have abused you. If you have spent the last 6 months fighting them and you suddenly show up smiling and offering peace, their paranoia will instantly spike. They will see right through you, and the gates will remain locked. To bypass their security system, you must master the second phase, the architecture of the disguise. You cannot simply pretend to be nice. You must construct a camouflage that is perfectly tailored to their specific psychological blindness. And the only thing more powerful than a manipulator's paranoia is their vanity. You must weaponize their ego against their survival instinct. To build the disguise, you initiate the slow fade of your resistance. You do not apologize out of nowhere. Instead, next time they assert their dominance, you stop fighting back. You let your shoulders drop. You let out a tired sigh, and you give them the exact look of someone whose spirit has finally been broken. You look them in the eye and you say, "You know what? You're right. I've been fighting you because I was too proud to admit that you just understand this better than I do." This is the psychological equivalent of painting the Trojan Horse gold. You are not just surrendering, you are actively feeding their grandiosity. You are validating the exact delusion they have been trying to force onto you. The delusion that they are infinitely superior, wiser, and more capable. To deepen the disguise, you take it one step further. You ask for their advice. There is nothing a narcissist loves more than playing the role of the benevolent dictator. When you approach them and humbly ask for their guidance on a project, a social issue, or a personal problem, you are handing them the ultimate poisoned apple. Their ego will swell to such massive proportions that it will completely crush their paranoia. They cannot fathom that someone asking for their brilliant mentorship could possibly be plotting their downfall. By playing the role of the defeated, compliant student, you become completely invisible to their threat detection radar. You transition from being an enemy who must be destroyed to a highly valuable, subordinate asset who strokes their ego. They will drop their guard. They will start inviting you to the meetings they used to lock you out of. They will introduce you to the allies they used to weaponize against you. They will literally open the heavy iron gates of their fortress, put their arm around your shoulder, and walk you directly into their control room. The manipulator believes they have finally conquered you. They believe they have successfully trained a loyal dog. They have absolutely no idea that the dog is actually a wolf, wearing a perfectly tailored sheepskin, quietly memorizing the layout of the house. Once you are successfully inside the gates, the atmosphere changes completely. You are now standing in the center of the manipulator's constructed reality. It is an echo chamber of gossip, shared delusions, and toxic alliances. Your instincts will scream at you to immediately start planting seeds of doubt or defending your reputation to their friends. You must suppress this urge entirely. If you act too quickly, you are nothing but a saboteur who got caught, and you will be violently expelled from the group. Instead, you initiate Phase 3, the silent audit. A Machiavellian strategist knows that every social circle, every workplace clique, and every toxic family unit has a hidden infrastructure. The manipulator sits at the top, projecting absolute authority, but their power is entirely dependent on the people holding them up. Your objective is not to attack the manipulator. Your objective is to map the load-bearing pillars of their empire. You become a psychological ghost. You sit in their meetings, you attend their dinners, and you listen with cold, clinical precision. You are auditing the network. You begin to categorize the people in their circle. You identify the true believers, the flying monkeys who are just as toxic as the manipulator and will defend them to the death. You mentally mark them as untouchable. But more importantly, you look for the cracks in the foundation. You look for the exhausted enablers. These are the people who agree with the manipulator in public, but their eyes are tired. They are the ones who laugh a little too late at the predator's cruel jokes. They are the coworkers who look down at their desks when the boss is on a rampage. They do not follow the manipulator out of loyalty. They follow them out of fear and convenience. They are secretly desperate for a way out, but they are too cowardly to make the first move. These individuals are the structural flaws in the manipulator's fortress. During the silent audit, you do not try to turn these people against the leader. That is a fatal error. If you speak poorly of the manipulator, the fearful enabler will immediately report you to protect themselves. Instead, you become the safest person in the room. You become a vault. When the manipulator is acting erratic or abusive, you simply make subtle, empathetic eye contact with the exhausted enablers. You give them a quiet nod of understanding. You offer them a small, practical favor when the manipulator is overloading them with work. You do not speak a single word of treason, but you begin to establish a parallel emotional connection with the exact people holding the manipulator's empire together. You are silently laying a shadow network of trust directly underneath the predator's feet. You are mapping every grievance, every secret resentment, and every hidden weakness in their alliances. The manipulator looks around. Fortress is mapped, and the structural fortress is mapped, and the structural weak points, the exhausted enablers, have been identified. The manipulator is still sitting on their throne, completely oblivious, believing that their empire is perfectly secure and that you are nothing but a conquered subject. It is time to execute Phase 4, the invisible siphon. A dark triad personality maintains control over a group through a relentless cycle of chaos, fear, and manufactured crises. They keep everyone off balance so that they remain the center of attention. But chaos is exhausting. The people holding the manipulator up are secretly starved for stability, competence, and peace. To siphon the manipulator's leverage, you do not try to steal their crown. You simply become the solid ground that everyone else desperately needs to stand on. You deploy the most devastating contrast in psychological warfare. You become the architect of sanity. When the manipulator throws a tantrum and creates a massive problem, whether it is a manufactured drama in a friend group or a blown deadline at work, you do not react. You do not complain about them. While the manipulator is screaming and the enablers are panicking, you quietly step in and solve the practical problem. You send the email. You smooth over the social friction. You provide the calm, logical answer. You do this with zero arrogance. You even credit the manipulator publicly, saying, "I just handled the details so manipulator's name could focus on the big picture." This is the genius of the invisible siphon. You are feeding the narcissist's ego, making them feel like a brilliant visionary, while simultaneously proving to every single person in the room that you are the actual functional leader. The exhausted enablers will begin to notice this contrast. They will compare the exhausting, toxic demands of the manipulator with your quiet, unwavering competence. Subconsciously, the gravity of the room begins to shift. When the enablers have a problem, they will stop going to the manipulator because they know it will only result in drama. They will start coming to you. You become their confidant. You become the vault for their frustrations. You listen, you nod, and you offer practical, emotionless support. You are systematically rerouting the power supply of the entire network. Drop by drop, interaction by interaction, you are draining the loyalty, trust, and dependence away from the predator and funneling it directly into your own hands. The most beautiful part of this strategy is that the manipulator will actually encourage it. Because they are lazy and entitled, they will gladly let you take on the heavy lifting of managing the group's emotions and tasks. They think you are doing their busy work. They do not realize that leadership is not a title. It is leverage. And by the time they notice that the entire network relies on you instead of them, the siphon is complete. You have hollowed out their empire from the inside, leaving them as nothing more than a figurehead sitting on a rotting throne. The invisible siphon is complete. You now hold the true leverage within the group, while the manipulator is nothing more than a hollow king sitting on a rotting throne. They still believe they are in absolute control because they still hold the title, the loudest voice, the formal authority, or the center of social attention. But true Machiavellian power is never about the title. It is about who the network actually relies on to survive. Now it is time for Phase 5, the controlled collapse. A dark triad personality is inherently destructive. Their arrogance, their impulsivity, and their need for drama constantly create messes. Up until this point, their enablers, and recently you, have been quietly cleaning up those messes behind the scenes to keep the empire. Simply stop catching the knives they drop. You do not expose them. You simply stop catching the knives they drop. You pull the pins. You wait for the inevitable moment when the manipulator makes a massive, arrogant mistake. They insult a crucial ally, they drop the ball on a major project, or they create a toxic social crisis that threatens the entire group. In the past, this is exactly when you would have stepped in, smoothed things over, and played the architect of sanity to absorb more leverage. But this time, you step back. You let the crisis unfold. When the exhausted enablers look to you in a panic, expecting you to fix the manipulator's mess like you always do, you deploy the ultimate, untouchable defense. Polite, professional helplessness. You look at the enablers with mild, sympathetic eyes and say, "I wish I could fix this, but specifically wanted to handle this their way, and I have to respect their leadership." Or, "I would love to help you, but I simply don't have the authority to override their decision." This is the checkmate move. By weaponizing your fake submission, you are legally and socially protected. You cannot be blamed for the disaster because you are just following their brilliant lead. Suddenly, the buffer is gone. The exhausted enablers are forced to look at the raw, unfiltered incompetence and toxicity of the predator. But here is the critical difference. In the past, they tolerated the abuse because they had nowhere else to go. Now, because you spent the last few months building the invisible siphon, they have a safe, competent, and stable alternative. You. The enablers will reach their breaking point. The fear that kept them loyal to the manipulator will be eclipsed by their exhaustion and their absolute trust in your stability. They will stop answering the manipulator's calls. They will stop laughing at their jokes. They will start bypassing the manipulator entirely to work directly with you. You did not have to scream. You did not have to wage a messy public war. You simply mapped the load-bearing pillars of their empire, gently transferred the weight to your own shoulders, and then quietly stepped out of the way. The fortress collapses entirely under the weight of the manipulator's own toxic gravity. The collapse of a dark triad personality's empire is rarely a loud, cinematic explosion. It is a quiet, desperate unraveling. When you pull the pins and let their toxic gravity take over, the enablers scatter. The social circle dissolves, or the workplace dynamic entirely shifts around you. The manipulator is left standing in the rubble of their own making, entirely isolated, looking for someone to blame. Naturally, they will look at you. But this is where the absolute brilliance of the Trojan Horse strategy reveals itself. You have left 0 fingerprints. If the manipulator attempts to launch a smear campaign against you, they will immediately sound insane. They cannot tell their former allies that you destroyed them, because their former allies watched you spend months being polite, submissive, and helpful. What are they going to say? They destroyed my empire by being too supportive and letting me make my own decisions. It is a psychological checkmate. You have engineered a scenario where the predator cannot even play the victim without exposing their own profound incompetence. They are trapped in a cage of their own design, and you are the one holding the key. You did not have to become a monster to defeat them. You did not have to raise your voice, compromise your peace, or engage in their exhausting, petty wars outside the gates. You simply stepped inside, mapped the architecture, absorbed the leverage, and let them destroy themselves. This is the evolution from prey to sovereign. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are quietly architecting it. You have learned the cold, ancient truth that the most dangerous person in the room is never the loudest. The most dangerous person is the one who appears completely harmless while silently holding the structural blueprints of the entire room. The manipulators will continue to build their fragile fortresses. They will continue to demand compliance and project their arrogant illusions of power. Let them build, because you now know that no wall is too thick and no gate is too heavy for a perfectly designed disguise. If you are ready to stop fighting battles you cannot win and start mastering the hidden architecture of power, subscribe to Mind Cipher. We will continue to deconstruct dark psychology, Machiavellian strategy, and the ultimate laws of human dynamics. Stay silent, stay calculating, and never let them see you coming.